The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is hopeful that Canadians can enjoy a one-dose summer. He has said that if case numbers come down to a manageable level, summer might actually not be so bad. We can look forward to patios, non-essential shopping, maybe even some get-togethers with friends and family. And the reality is we're only talking about one dose of the COVID vaccine, so you may not have as much freedom as you would like this July and August, but we still have high hopes.
I'm hoping to go to BC in June, probably to Tofino, to catch up with my son and a couple of his kids. So I'm hoping that they open the borders, and I have been vaccinated once.
I work in theater, and this summer I'll be directing a show, a production of Shakespeare at a beautiful cultural institution we have here in St. John's called The Rooms. A successful summer to me would look like safely carrying out this production.
I have not seen my mom in almost 2 years. She's 82 years old. She doesn't hear very well. My intention is to see my mom. I have to see my mother.
I've had my first shot. I'm actually on my way to Strathcona Park, backcountry camping. I feel safer doing that than going to a grocery store in Victoria.
I wish I was going to Saskatchewan for my brother's wedding. Assuming I get one vaccine, I guess I'm a little confused on whether that would be safe.
All great ideas. Whether those plans will come to pass or not is another matter entirely. So on this Victoria Day, the unofficial start to summer here in Canada, we're talking about the do's and don'ts of a one-dose summer. Epidemiologist Raywat Deonandan is here to help. Raywat, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. What does a one-dose summer mean to you?
It means we're on the ramp to normal. The question is one dose better than two, or two doses better than one dose? Absolutely. Is one dose good enough? It might be for a lot of things. A lot of unknowns here, but definitely the fact that more people are getting at least one dose into them fills me with confidence and optimism that we are on the path out of this mess.
Summer is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, are we talking about summer being July and August in Canada, or does the one-dose summer begin sooner rather than later?
I think it begins in July, to be honest. We're still in the throes of that third wave, and most of the modeling shows that we won't get through most of it until the end of June. So anything responsible should begin, I think, Canada Day, which is a great symbolic way to start. But again, I'm confident that come Canada Day, a lot more things will be available to us than they are now.
So let's talk about some of the specifics. And again, we heard some Canadians there articulating some of the things they want to do. Would we, as a one-dose summer, is it going to be safe, for example, to have people over for dinner in the house?
So it's a complicated question because it's not just about whether or not sufficient people are vaccinated. There are a set of indicators to talk about here, at least three categories of indicators: the epidemiological ones, the health systems ones, and the population ones. So far, we're only talking about the population indicator, that is, the percentage of people who've been vaccinated and therefore have some degree of resistance to this disease. But the epidemiological ones are things like the reproduction number, is it below 1? The test positivity rate, is it below, let's say, 3%, which is an arbitrary number, and the incidence rate. And the other one that we don't talk enough about is the health systems indicator, which is how much space is there in the hospital. That's a lagging indicator. As things look better where we live, the hospitals are still going to be busy for some time. And we can't really play around too much lest we compromise and threaten that hospital capacity again. So let's back up for a second. One dose means you got pretty good protection, maybe 90%, depending upon how you do the math based on the clinical trial evidence. But that's not perfect. And the fact that there is going to be a proportion of people for whom the vaccine fails is only a problem if the prevalence of the disease is high. If the disease is around us, it finds holes in our defenses. So we got to make sure that the disease is not percolating before we start doing these activities. So it's not just about how many people get that first dose. It's about these other things, in particular, how prevalent disease is and how much space there is in the hospital.
Okay, so I'll go back to the specifics because I think people are trying to figure out what they can and can't do. And part of this is like dreaming, right? Like I want to be able to think that I'll maybe be able to do these things in a month or two. So given what you've just said, is having people over for dinner in the house a good idea, or just hold off on that?
Right now, it's not a good idea. Later in the summer, I think it will be a good idea, depending upon if these indicators trend in the way I think they will. So let's say the disease is not as prevalent come August, and there's additional space in the hospitals. I think we will definitely be seeing some indoor dining at that point.
What about sending kids off to, if they can, go to a summer camp? I mean, kids have been cooped up at home for many families in many parts of this country, not able to have in-school learning and not able to see their friends as much. Is something like that in the realm of possibility?
I think so, especially if most of that is outdoor, especially if it's a day camp in which they come home at the end of the day and, sleep in their own houses. Anything outdoors is phenomenally less riskier than anything indoors. Phenomenally so. Not zero risk, but close to it in many cases. And if you layer on top of that the traditional mitigation tools like keeping your distance and, not French kissing strangers, you're probably okay. So I highly recommend these outdoor activities like camp.
Um, there are a lot of people who perhaps might be thinking about getting away to a cabin or a cottage or something like that. It's not obviously affordable for everybody. I think of, the public pool that's at the bottom of my street, which in many ways is kind of like the big social gathering place for people in the neighborhood who want to be in the city, and want to be around each other. Is being in a situation like that where there are kids, jumping off the diving board and crowding around the pool deck, is something like that a good idea?
I think it is in general. Now, some constraints need to be put on it, like the number of people who can be there at a given time have to be reduced. People must be discouraged from crowding around people they don't live with. But in general, being with others outdoors responsibly, I think is a great idea. Now, the cottage situation is a bit different. Are you going to share the cottage with another family with whom you don't typically associate? Well, that's a bit more problematic. If it's just you and your family out in the cottage, that's fantastic. If you're going to a cottage that someone else just vacated, that's fine too. I mean, we I think complain too much about the risk of surface transmission. I don't think it's that dire. But the number of things we can do in that vein, outdoors in particular, are really quite high.
Raywat, stay with us. I want to bring in another voice into our conversation. Ryan Rogers owns Paddle West Kayaking. He is at his boat shack in beautiful Tofino, British Columbia, on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Ryan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here. This is going to be the second pandemic summer for your business. Just briefly, what was it like last year?
Last year, I would say it was better than expected, but not as good as it could have been. We were open for our day tours, but two other facets of our business had to close. So we operate day tours and then multi-day tours, which we didn't run. They were in the territory of the Hausat Nation. So we respected their wishes and to keep their communities safe, kept all non-essential travel out of that territory. But where we operate our day tours, we're able to do that in Tofino and Ucluelet.
How reliant are you on people coming from far away to paddle around Tofino?
Well, last year we learned less, so more than we thought. We have a lot of support within Canada. So Tofino, usually 20 to 30% is an international market. And last year, we were very well supported by Canadians, which was great. But yeah, in a regular year, we have a big mix of people from all over the world. We were still down in Tofino despite that support.
We know that Tofino has seen an impact of visitors to the region with a spike in COVID cases following travel in the spring. Are you worried that could repeat itself this summer?
I mean, of course, it's a possibility. It is a tourism destination that attracts people from all over. But I think the community has come together really well and responds to things like that all together. And, all of these collaborations we've been doing locally and the information you get from public health all help to prevent these things from happening again.
So if people are partially vaccinated, again, this whole idea of a one-dose summer, what are you hopeful for when it comes to this upcoming season?
Oh, well, I guess from broad to narrow, I hope, we can all have in Canada a summer, because summer is so important to Canadians. It's short and, we've all been cooped up for the winter, like you've been saying. And narrowly, I hope we can operate at full capacity. I know that may start a bit later, similar to last year, but that is my hope that myself and other kayak companies around Vancouver Island can run their day trips, and especially their multi-day trips. Those ones are a little bit harder to plan for last minute, but hopefully we can, if it's safe to do so, get some bookings, to take people out sea kayak camping.
It's a beautiful part of the country.
We didn't do that last year, yeah.
No, and they need to see it. I mean, you have to really see it and see it from the water as well. I wish you the best of luck. Ryan, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Ryan Rogers owns Paddle West Kayaking in Tofino, British Columbia. Out of the side of the country, they're also gearing up for summer, such as it is. Tara McNally McPhee works at PEI National Park. In an average summer, they see over 700,000 visitors to the park. That number dropped by nearly half last year. Tara, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
What does a one-dose summer look like for you at the park, do you think?
Well, last year we definitely saw, as you mentioned, a decrease in visitors, but we did have the Atlantic bubble for July and August. And so while our visitation was low, we still had the weekend warriors. So folks would come over and spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday along the coastline here in PEI National Park. And I expect we'll see much the same this year, though if that Atlantic bubble opens again. And I expect that we might see a little more confidence in our visitors from the traveling perspective, which we're hopeful for.
What's the biggest challenge to you and your staff as we start to see Canadians with at least one dose of vaccine thinking that they can travel, thinking that they can get out of the bubble that they might have been in?
I think the biggest challenge, what we're focused most on is just fear of the unknown. And so we have a pretty significant number of staff members. So our team grows, and that team is comprised of a lot of young folks. And so we really try to prepare them on the front line for any range of scenarios. So kind of doing some role play, some scenario-based tabletop exercises, just trying to anticipate what might come through the door. With that one dose summer, we may see some folks who perhaps aren't wearing their mask any longer. They feel that it's safe to do that, or, kind of being a little braver in terms of the restrictions that are in place. So preparing our staff to have those difficult conversations, I guess that's kind of what we're really focused on, and making sure that they're mentally prepared for that.
What are you most looking forward to this summer?
Oh, just getting back to some kind of normal. I think people have this pent up demand. They want to come to the beach. We are a beach destination, of course. And having folks have that respite is so important. And I guess that's what we're seeing across the country. People are eager to get outside. We have great opportunities for folks to enjoy nature safely and sustainably. And that's what I'd like to see us get back to, is having those folks really be able to come and enjoy, and really more than ever, kind of just rest a little bit.
We could do with that rest, I think. Tara, great to talk to you.
So.
Good luck this summer.
Thank you.
Tara McNally McPhee is a visitor experience manager for PEI National Park. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, has been with us over the course of this discussion. Tara brought up the idea of masks. When do you think it's going to be safe for us to ditch the mask?
It'll be safe when 2 doses are in you and 2 doses are with the other person, and suddenly you both can remove your mask to be close to each other. But masks in general, I think, are going to be with us for a couple of months at least, if not longer. The problem is the vaccines don't give us perfect protection. They're very good, but they're not perfect. And so the masks give us that additional layer of protection until the cases come down. It's not interminable, it's just until the cases come down. We are seeing many cases, not many, but newsworthy a number of breakthrough infections, fully vaccinated people still getting infected because the vaccines aren't perfect. So, Tara's points have me think of 2 things. One is that we must remain vigilant and keep these mitigation tools in place. But on the other hand, people are going to be afraid unnecessarily for a long time. So there's a balancing act to be had here. We must remain, cognizant of our responsibilities here, but at the same time, not let the pandemic stultify us with undue fear, because things are getting better.
Well, we were talking about cottages earlier. Terry Reese has a multi-generation cottage on Lake Cashabog, which is outside Peterborough, Ontario. Says he is really missing time spent with family, from siblings to grandkids.
I'm hoping to go to BC in June, probably to Tofino, to catch up with my son and a couple of his.
For our family, the cottage has been a place where we've gathered since I was born. It's a place that's now a 3-generation experience. family from far and wide gathers every year, and it's a chance to catch up no matter where we're living at the time. I've got two siblings, one in Calgary, one in Vancouver, neither of whom were able to join us because of the travel restrictions and because we just couldn't be in close proximity. So it's tough. It's a chance for us as we get older to continue to stay connected, especially as our kids get older.
Raywat, just briefly, where are we at when it comes to interprovincial travel?
I don't think the borders are open yet in many cases, but if you must travel for medical reasons or for compassionate reasons, of course there are accommodations for that. Like where I live in Ottawa, getting across the bridge to get to Quebec can be problematic when the restrictions are in place. But I think that's going to be lifted pretty soon. But there'll still be a discouraging of unnecessary travel, I feel. It's a balancing act, right? So it depends on what the situation is on the ground in both provinces, what the indicators are suggesting. I can't predict what the policymakers will say, but I think epidemiologically, you're driven by the situation on the ground. And it sounds horrible of me to say this, but I still want to discourage unnecessary travel for a while yet, while we get things under control. We should enjoy life where we are, monitor the prevalence of these new variants, allow vaccination to take its course, and then open things up more strategically.
Stay home. Get takeout, perhaps, from a food truck that you could take to a park. Ada Mock owns a dumpling food truck in Toronto. Ada, good morning to you.
Morning, Matt.
What does a one-dose summer look like for you? In the best case scenario, what are you hoping for?
I'm not hoping for much this summer. I know the city of Toronto, where we are at, has canceled permits for all events up till September.
Yeah.
So we pivoted to kind of a frozen dumpling delivery business, kind of at the end of last April. So we've been doing that for just over a year now, and I think that's going to be what the summer is going to look like.
Those big events, I mean, the Canadian National Exhibition, other big events, how important are they to the bottom line of your business?
Oh, it's basically the entire business. Before the pandemic, it was we do events, we do lunches, and we do catering. And all of that is gone.
So what was it like to pivot? I mean, as you mentioned, you turned to a frozen product instead. How difficult was that?
It was pretty difficult, but we had the time on our hands to kind of figure it out as we went. I think we're super lucky that we have a product that can be frozen, and we're also super lucky that we have our loyal customer base that bought dumplings from us right from the get-go. So
And
I consider myself very lucky.
I was going to say, are you finding, I mean, we're sort of living closer and smaller now, right? And shopping locally and supporting the people that we really love and whose businesses we really love. Are you finding that that's helped you get through something like this?
Oh, definitely. We've been able to keep our costs covered. We've been able to keep our staff hired, and we've just kind of, completely changed our whole business model. We're now in a couple stores, so we also did all the work into getting our nutritional information done, and we're just kind of expanding into this whole new opportunity that we never had time or, we just never thought about doing that. But now we have kind of a new branch of the business.
Personally, what are you looking forward to this summer?
I'm looking forward to getting my second dose and then, preparing throughout the winter for next year and hopefully actually getting back out in the truck and doing more events and being able to gather in large crowds so we can do caterings as well.
And if people get to the truck or they get to the frozen food section, what's the hot dumpling flavor?
I still think our OG pork dumpling is still the most popular. We did actually have a lot of time on our hands to come up with some new flavors. So that's super exciting for our customers because, in the summer we're just go, go, go. But now we can, do monthly specials and fun stuff like that. So, but the OG pork, always the most popular.
OG
frozen
pork.
or cooked.
OG pork runs things. Ada, good to talk to you and good luck this summer. Thank you.
You too, Matt. Thank you.
Ada Mock owns Fisto Dumpling Truck in Toronto. Raywat Deonandan, what do Canadians need to keep top of mind? I mean, we've been working through some of the scenarios in the last minute or so that we have. What do we need to keep top of mind as we plan for the summer?
Number one, vaccination is not perfect defense. It's very good, but it's not perfect. Number two doses are better than one dose. Number three, don't rush it. The finish line is in sight. Let's not sprint to the finish line. Let's take our time and walk there comfortably, lest we fall and break our nose before we get to the end. Number four, is that this is not just about vaccination. It's about these other factors I talked about, in particular, the hospitalization rate. And number 5 is going to be different depending upon where you live around the country. So the situation is different in Toronto versus, say, PEI, right? Versus, say, in Nunavut. So look at what's happening locally to make your decisions. And the last thing is things are getting better every day. We're nearing the end. We'll be done with most of this year. And the secret is just roll up your sleeves and get that jab and encourage your friends and your relatives to get jabbed as well, because that's how we get out of this.
I will take your optimism. Raywat, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, associate professor at the University of Ottawa.